Welcome to Remotely Interested, the podcast where we talk remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. Today we'll hear from Robert Purdy. Robert is a new business specialist within the IT industry, originally from England, with experience across Europe. Robert's expertise lies in business development, SMB and enterprise sales within the software as a service space. Robert, welcome to the Remotely Interested podcast.
Nice to see you, Mary. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for accepting. It's really good to see you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Likewise.
Okay, so we worked together a couple of years ago, but to kick things off, for those who don't know you, can you begin by telling us about your work practice and how and when remote working first became part of the way you work?
Yes, so I am a new business sales specialist in the IT space. I've been doing this work since 2018 and started with business development roles before progressing into full sales cycle roles. Remote working really entered my career during the COVID period, where when I was working for a company called Labster, where we were selling virtual science labs to schools and universities who couldn't access their physical labs during COVID. We were working remotely ourselves. And that's where it first entered my professional life. And then subsequently for different companies, I've worked remotely as a sales executive.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it's been the case for a lot of people that COVID really changed the way that they worked and brought things online in a way that didn't seem to have been possible before. Were you happy to change to working in that way initially, or were you a bit reticent at first?
I was quite empowered because of the solution we were selling was helping students continue their education despite being away from physical labs, so they could still develop those skills. And I thought that was really cool because it was extremely disruptive otherwise in people's lives to be limited socially, and to help people minimize their limits with their education. I thought was really good. So I felt quite confident when doing my work, despite perhaps not having ideal remote work conditions. I was in a shared apartment where I had a room and I was just doing my work and doing my sales calls on a laptop. But I felt very good about it and I made it work for me.
Yeah, excellent. So you were ready to adapt in order to enjoy the benefits then of working in that way. And of course, yeah, it was a time when we didn't have a lot of choice, did we? So yeah,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yes.
And then the roles that you've had since, have they tended to have a remote aspect to the work as well?
There has been flexibility in all of the roles since, and I think that's because employers have been more accepting of remote work and potential benefits, and perhaps perceived limitations have been, or biases have been kind of alleviated or
Sure.
changed to some degree.
Yeah.
So I've been working remotely on a flexible basis in my roles with Liquido to some extent and with Purdy, which has been part of the Visma group, and remote work has been part of those as well.
So in terms of the positive aspects of remote working, what would you say are the things that are really great about working in that way?
Top of mind, the first thing for me was cutting time on the commute that could be better spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
Whether that be accomplishing my tasks in a given day, rather than if I don't have the hours for the commute, maybe I can get more work done. But also improving my personal life, whether that be having time to do a workout, having time to spend time with family that I wouldn't have if I was commuting, and all of these things I think improve one's mental health, and that can have an after effect on the quality of one's work as well. So those are positives. I think that we all have a professional life and a personal life, and I've experienced that I've been able to mix my work with travel back to the UK from living in Denmark, where I can spend time with my family, and that's been really nice. So those are the positives I've experienced.
Yeah, these are points that keep coming up again and again in the conversations I've been having recently about the fact that it can really impact well-being. And obviously, well-being in just general life, personal life, is going to improve the way we work as well. So all round, it's a positive, yeah. And like you, I've lived abroad for many years as well. So to have that extra time and that extra flexibility to visit family, visit friends is so important and can make that abroad experience that much easier
Yeah,
because of that flexibility. So yeah, completely
indeed.
agree. Okay, what about the negatives? What are some of the challenges do you think that we have to overcome when we're working remotely?
I think potentially, for me personally, I could have been better at some points in the past with separating my work life from my personal life. And when I'm working in the same places where I'm living, it can be difficult.
Yeah,
So that's been one of the challenges in the past. I'd add to that managers that I've had in the past have perceived remote work differently. I'm fortunate that I work in sales and it's very results driven, and ultimately it's the numbers that my performance that really has the most bearing on my relationship with my manager. But I have seen that managers have been varying in their levels of trust towards remote working.
yeah,
Um, and lastly, I'd say for somebody who really enjoys the social aspect of work and socializing and having a laugh with the people that I work with,
mm,
um, I'm when I'm working remotely, I'm not getting that from work. So I've had to be diligent about making sure that I get my social fix outside of work.
yeah.
Um, those have been some of the challenges that I've had. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. When it comes to socializing, you have to take that much more initiative, don't you, in order to feel that kind of social, yeah, that social need. Yeah, I agree. But it doesn't mean it's not possible. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
That's really interesting, though. I was particularly interested to speak to you because you work in sales, and I didn't think about the fact that obviously it's results driven. So, however you've interacted with your clients, the results kind of speak for themselves, I guess, on whether you make the sale or not. But the fact that your job does mean interacting with people in order to make the sale, do you find it more difficult to close those sales remotely rather than in person?
I'd say that I've found ways around it. Um, Not to say that I'm a pestering personality, but I I like to make sure that with my team that we're all on the same page, that we're communicating clearly in a structured way,
Yeah.
and that we're prioritizing correctly. Yeah, and I try and be aware enough that I'm not pestering people and that I'm patient and structured, and just make sure to give them a sense of what the priority of the ask is, such that I'm not stressing somebody out. Because I think one of the challenges when you're working remotely is that there is a risk of being inundated with requests.
Yeah.
And so if everybody's saying it's the top priority, it becomes very difficult to execute on things. So clear communication has been a big help in closing sales in an online format. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I guess in a way, working online makes it that much easier in some ways to keep communicating over and over again and being relentless in that way that I guess wouldn't have been physically possible in person.
I think
So
in person, if you were tapping somebody on the shoulder and pestering them 5 times per day, I think that there would be some consequences to that.
they'd be
So
calling HR maybe. Yeah,
probably, yeah.
exactly. But remotely, it's that much easier. Yeah, I guess to send a message, send a voice note. Okay. Right. And that's interacting with team members. What about actually interacting with clients or potential clients?
In my opinion, in sales, it's always more impactful to meet people in person. And in the context of a sales funnel, where you have various stages, different qualification criteria on how much of a business impact your solution will have, and then the willingness of the prospect to engage in seeing where this solution would fit, then looking at the commercial and the legal due diligence of implementing this product. This all takes time, and there's a seriousness to the sale that is being built up over time.
Yeah.
As it gets more serious, it is more impactful to meet in person to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So I would say that you cannot replace completely the value of meeting somebody in person. The key thing is using that at the right time. I can't meet with all of my prospects in person at the beginning, because there is always a number of opportunities that don't progress. So there is a tremendous value in meeting people online to begin with, and then as you agree together that it's a serious business case, then to meet in person is still, of course, valuable.
Yeah.
It's a mix.
Okay. So working remotely in those initial stages is actually quite effective, saves you time. But then in the later stages, there is that importance of actually meeting in person. Have you had
Yes.
experience or perhaps observed occasions where the kind of second part of the sale has been executed remotely and it's unraveled because there hasn't been that in-person interaction to close the deal?
I think there have been cases where radio silence has been something that's been very easy for the prospect to do,
Yeah.
and therefore the sale follows through. I've also had instances where prospects are negotiating extremely aggressively on price,
Right.
and behaving almost in an obtuse manner that I don't believe personally somebody would behave like if it was in person.
Yeah. Yeah. That is such a good point. Some people, many people, allow themselves to behave in a way online that they would never do in person. Yeah, I completely agree. And I guess then in-person meetings with a prospect, are people less likely to ghost an in-person meeting than an online meeting in your experience?
Definitely.
Right. Okay.
For reference, I'm resting on my experience selling a billing system for subscription businesses, which
Mm,
included many stakeholders on the client side, heads of IT, financial profiles, heads of product and revenue, and to get everybody seeing eye to eye. In the end stages, always benefit from an in-person meeting. Um,
yeah.
with other services that I've sold, such as the science lab, the virtual science labs with Labster, that was different because it's a tool that can be accessed online. It's not as complex, and the deal could be taken all the way through to close online. So I think that's an important distinction that I would add to my
Yeah.
opinion.
Excellent. Thanks, Robert. No, really interesting. I've learned something there. That's really good. Yeah. So any other hurdles that you think need to be overcome when working remotely?
I think that, as I said earlier, there in corporate there can be a variance in how managers perceive remote workers. So I think it's important for one to reflect on what work-life balance they want, or what role that they want, such that it's perceived well. Of course, it does depend on the manager, but I think it's important to be aware that there could be limits to progression in a corporate environment for a remote worker. It might be the case that it doesn't matter if you're in corporate sales, like I have been, where it's your number of sales that determines your income, your progression potential, and that's just something I think it's healthy to be aware of.
Yeah. Okay. Depending on the industry and what's normal, I guess, within the industry. Yeah. So obviously you've had experience, Robert, with working with a variety, of people in a variety of roles across Europe. So by now, I'm sure you have an idea of what makes somebody actually easy to work with when working remotely. What would you say are the qualities and the kind of general work style and behavior that makes it easy to collaborate with somebody when working remotely?
I would say that it's important to be patient in your behavior, but also clear in your prioritization, so that in a team environment, you can clearly see which tasks should be executed first, and that's tricky as in a pressurized environment to stay patient. It is difficult, but it's very important. I've seen with my collaborations remotely. I would also stress that it it is a team environment for me when I've been working remotely, and putting that a little bit more effort into my communications with people, checking in with them and having, it might sound a bit ridiculous, but having a bit of small talk and asking them how they're doing
Yeah.
before just requesting something.
Yeah.
That I think that just helps.
Absolutely. I agree. I think online, working remotely, it's very easy to slip into a style of communication that could come across as quite aggressive, if we're kind of straight to the point and have that attitude of, oh, well, the person's not actually in front of me, so I can just cut through the niceties and head straight for the request. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think there's that danger of trying to go too quickly sometimes when things are remote. So taking that step back just to be
yeah.
polite, just to actually behave like a civilized human is a good idea, isn't it? But
Indeed, indeed, and just putting a bit more effort into it,
yeah,
and being very structured in what you do helps.
yeah,
Those are the kind of top of mind qualities and work styles.
yeah.
Being structured and being patient and polite. Sounds very simple, but I have seen in my career that it's not always the case. So
No, I think that's often the case, isn't it? Technology makes certain things easier, and the fact that we can be connected remotely has made so many things easier. But when things are easier, yeah, maybe we don't focus on just the kind of pleasant ways of doing things to actually engage with people, yeah, in a more humane way. So
yeah,
yeah, just taking that step back and not putting efficiency over manners. Yeah, I'm always
indeed,
a big
yeah.
fan of that. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. So, as you know, this is the Remotely Interested podcast about remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. So, you have already provided plenty of information that falls under those categories. So, thanks so much. So, we're going to reach now for the surprise question. And the surprise question is here. I promise you it's fair. It's on the Mosaic Gold plate. Some nice paper questions here, which I will select, and it's random. It's you can see on the screen. So let's see what the question is today. Okay, right. What is your favorite thing to do during a work break when you're working from home?
I would say go for a short walk, get some fresh air. It could also be a run. What I've seen in my sales career is that, of course, not every meeting and call goes well, and it's important to reset before you continue with your day.
Hmm.
And a little bit of exercise, a walk around the block, or a short run has been the best way for me to do that. And yeah, perhaps grabbing myself another coffee as well, or a glass of water, and then I feel that when I go back to my work, I've got a new mindset, a refreshed outlook, and I can continue to perform at a good level. And that's what's been good for me to get the most out of my remote work days.
Yeah. I'm the same. I mean, when I prepare these questions, I often think about what I would do. And when I looked at that question, yeah, everything that I thought of involved being outside. So it's almost like because you're not commuting uh, to work and back, and obviously we've already talked about the benefits of that, but it becomes even more important to get outside when you can, get fresh air, get actual sunlight on your face. So yeah, and there's nothing like a good walk, I agree, when things aren't going as well as you would hope, just to clear the mind. Yeah, yeah.
Indeed, and bonus points if it's a walk through nature. I've found that is, if there's some trees and some greenery, then that really helps as well,
Yeah, yeah,
rather
for
than the
sure.
concrete jungles of London and other
Yeah,
cities. So, yeah.
yeah. It's true. There's something about walking in nature as well that puts things in perspective as well.
Yeah.
Somehow that meeting's not that important when you're stood under a tree that's 200 years old. So
Exactly,
I
exactly.
find that helpful. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Robert. Well, this has been a great chat. I didn't know much about sales, but I've definitely got an insight into what's involved and how remote working can work, but has to be managed within that context. So that's really good. Perhaps some of the pointers you've given me will help me with my own business as well. I might be contacting you again for some more advice.
You're more than welcome, and
Thank
it's a
you.
pleasure to join.
So if there's anybody listening who is interested in collaborating with you, Robert, where would you suggest that they can find you?
The best place is LinkedIn. So if you can find my profile, which I presume will be shared,
Yes, I
um,
will share that. Yeah,
then I'll be happy to speak with anybody who's interested in my profile.
fantastic. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Robert. It's been great speaking to you. Take care and see you soon.
Thank you very much, Mary. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So we saw that as sales is a results-driven industry, the numbers do the talking, and this is therefore a great opportunity to potentially work in this industry from anywhere, all the while, however, ensuring that your manager is pleased with your performance. We saw the importance of developing social connections with our colleagues remotely to keep communication both pleasant and effective. And the all-important strategy of combining both in-person and remote interactions with potential clients at the right time in order to effectively close the deal. So, if you're even remotely interested in remote working, I'll see you next time.